So I'm gonna start now. The transmission is gone. Good morning, everyone. How are you? My name is João Miguel. I'm on the organizing committee of the 24 SEQ, and today I'm here with the directors of Buckman, N.M. Rao and Michael Wheeler, who will tell you a little about their trajectory in the company. If you have any questions, let us know in the chat, and we will be attentive, and the speaker will respond in the end of the content. And we will send the feedback forms. We wish you a great content. Carolina will present a video and then introduce the Buckman directors.
All right, thank you, João. Bom dia, pessoal. I will start in Portuguese and then I will transition to English, and then Mike just stayed right here with us. Bom dia, pessoal. Meu nome é Carolina. Eu sou engenheira química formada pela Unicamp. Eu participei da SEC como congressista em 2013, 2014 e 2015. Então, é um prazer estar aqui hoje com vocês nesse outro lado da mesa. A gente quer que essa interação com o Enem e com o Mike seja bem interativa. Então, pessoal, perguntem à vontade. Eu vou começar aqui com um vídeo e aí eu vou passar a palavra para eles, tá bom? João, vai me avisando quando você vê a tela, tá?
Okay.
So now back to English. This is an institutional video of Buckman. I'll quickly share with you, and then I'll introduce Mike and Enem. And then we can get started with the actual panel. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Right.
With 9 operating companies spread all over the world, Buckman spans continents, oceans, and cultures. Yet, all of our employees come together to form one company, one Buckman. Our perspective is global, our passion is personal, and our most important asset is something you just can't manufacture in a lab: commitment. Commitment makes the best chemistry for us, for our customers and their customers, and ultimately for the global community we all share. For pulp and paper companies, Buckman offers technologies to make paper stronger, tissue softer, and provides better ways to treat water and conserve resources to help mills run cleaner, faster, and at a lower total cost. For companies with water treatment and wastewater challenges, Buckman brings unsurpassed experience. Steel, biofuels, petrochemicals and other industries look to us to help reduce their risk, keep operations in compliance, and operate in an environmentally responsible way. For the leather industry, we provide innovative microorganism control programs, hide preservation technology and other solutions so leather companies can bring better quality leathers to market. And for many other manufacturing companies, our custom performance chemical applications enhance product attributes. Paint, coatings and plastics, wood treatment, agriculture and metalworking are just some of the industries we serve. A diverse clientele, and yet they all share an overriding goal: to be more sustainable, to build company value by reducing environmental impact, to safeguard the future. That's why Buckman strives to conserve resources and reduce waste in our facilities and in those of our customers, and why we contribute time, talent and financial resources to enhance communities worldwide through our volunteer initiative Buckman Cares. Whether you are a Buckman customer, an associate or member of the communities in which we operate, you should know that our commitment to sustainability is a driving force in all that we do. A world where not only is the environment cleaner, but the people are healthier, work more rewarding, business more profitable, and our communities better places to live. That's commitment. That's Buckman chemistry.
All right. right, this is just a short video that I always like to start with. Buckman is truly a global company. That's why in this edition of the Academic Week, we decided to bring some international presence too. So we have NM and Mike. Thank you so much for your time. To the students that are here, really take advantage of this opportunity. I wish I had this kind of experience during my graduation days at Unicamp. So I do encourage you to be extremely interactive with those two guys here who are fantastic professionals. And it is really hard to have 1 hour of their day. So thank you very much, NM and Mike. I will now pass the virtual microphone to Mike Wheeler to start their introductions. Mike, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Carolina. Can you hear me okay? All right, very good morning all. My name is Mike Willer. I'm the Director of Water Research here at Buckman. I'm just past my 1 year mark with Buckman. And I'll go back to the beginning though. I went to college as an inorganic chemist. So actually started college as a pre-med student, but as you can see, I didn't head in that direction in the end. Inorganic chemist was my degree for my bachelor's degree, and then I went to Harvard for a PhD in chemistry. Actually, my bachelor's degree is from Kalamazoo College. You guys might have to Google that one. Kalamazoo, Michigan is a real place. That's where my college was. You probably don't have to Google Harvard. You probably heard of that one. Spent 7 years in Boston getting my PhD. And then when I graduated, I went straight to industry and was hired by my colleague here on the call at a company called Nalco. And so I spent 20 years with that company in water treatment, and then later on in cleaning and sanitizing chemistry. Okay, so that's, and a big component of everything that I worked on from my whole 20 years was digital. So, and sensors, controllers, algorithms, data analytics, and all that kind of thing. And so that was, at the beginning, of course, that was not well known. And so, you know, some of the things that we worked on were kind of early on in the field of IoT. Okay, so that term didn't exist then either. So nowadays, now with Buckman, have the opportunity to bring those experiences, those skills to Buckman and do it in a new and more innovative way. And so, yeah, gives you a little flavor of what I've done. When I say water treatment, I mean cooling water, boiler water, things that you may or may not have heard of. I know I didn't when I was your age. But water treatment is fundamental, I guess, to the economy. And so that's why Buckman is interested in bringing new products and services in that sector. So anyway, thanks for the time today. Glad to be here. NM, you want to?
Okay. Good morning to everybody, and my name is NM. My full name is rather too long for me to pronounce here. I think everybody butchers it anyway, so I just go by either NM or Rao. Some people also call me Dr. Evil, if you know the reference to the Austin Powers movies. I came to Buckman about 3 years ago. I'm the Chief Digital Officer here. And but here's the paradox. I don't know how to write software. I'm not a hardware engineer. I don't do data analytics. I don't know why they brought me in as the CDO. And I say that a little bit because of I want to sort of give you a bit of background and flavor on my career and sort of how that came about. I got my bachelor's in chemical engineering many years ago. And I hate to say this, but before I guarantee you, any of you were born. And that's depressing for me to say, but it's true. I came to America. Back in those days, there were not that many opportunities in India. And America was the land of opportunity. And so, I came here in '83. I got my master's in chemical engineering. But somewhere during the masters, I realized that my passion was really in chemistry and it was not in engineering. So that's a beautiful thing about America. India, we were sort of set in the path that you were on. That's how you went. In America, there's a lot of freedom to change. So I changed. I went and did my PhD in chemistry. I went to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Some of you may have heard of it. It's a school that is far superior to Harvard in every way that you can imagine, almost as good as UNICAM. So anyway, so I got my PhD in chemistry, and I joined this company called Nalco, and I had sometimes in life, your career is all about luck and the kind of company that you get into and the kind of area that you get to focus on. So I got to working in water in early 1990. And at that time, water and sustainability were not the things that they are today. But somehow I got into work in that area, and it has been wonderful to me. Water has been a wonderful career for me. And it has given me a lot of satisfaction because, as you know, I told you I'm from India. India has lots of issues with water availability. I remember standing in line in the morning, waiting for the water truck to arrive and all those kind of things, the scenes that are playing out now all over the world. So I've always had a passion for water, and it was just luck and coincidence, or whatever you want to call it, that my career happened to intersect with my passion. And so I was in R&D for about 13 years, progressed through possibly every role that you can imagine on the bench as what we call a group leader, which is a starting level manager, as a director. And then about 2003, we were working on what Mike just referred to at that time, an IoT offering, which was brand new in the specialty chemical industry. And frankly, it was brand new almost everywhere. As Mike said, we didn't even call it IoT back then. We called it M2M and all those different things. We were working on something like that. And it was so new at the time that we couldn't find any business leader that wanted to adopt it and run with it. And that's another thing you're going to find. Sometimes you have to make your own luck, right? So a bunch of us in R&D were very excited. We thought we could change the world, but 0% of the business guys thought that same thing, right? So in 2003, I made the decision to move to marketing to help commercialize and launch this technology. And it was interesting, when I made the switch, I knew nothing about marketing. I'd never been to marketing school, or I didn't have an MBA or anything like that. So for about the next 1 year, it was discomfort hell, right? So you don't know anything. You're managing about 8 people that know more about marketing than you ever have learned. And so it's really becomes a question of subsuming your ego and learning and growing. And that's one of the themes that we keep coming back to, which is, if you want to advance in your career, do the things early on in your career that make you uncomfortable, because people grow when you're uncomfortable. People do not grow when you're comfortable and happy. So I was very uncomfortable, very unhappy for about a year, trying to learn how to market and trying to convince the organization that they really needed to do this and there could be a lot of money in there. And so very reluctantly, the company launched the technology in 2004. And what happened after that was history. We made today that the technology sells about $1.2 billion a year, right? And changed the entire company, changed the company identity from a chemical company to one that was a technology chemical company. If you look at a company called Ecolab today, and its price to earnings ratio is about 31. If you look at the price to earnings ratio of most chemical companies, it's probably 10. And the difference comes from the technology angle. So it was very successful. And then I got an opportunity as a technology. That's another thing you learn is nothing succeeds like success. And everybody wanted to jump on board, and everybody wanted to help, and it was everybody's idea. And to get everybody to feel the way, that is the inflection point that everybody wants, right? So the success was good to me. And then I asked to go to Singapore to do some things in Asia Pacific. Again, the same theme. I wanted to be uncomfortable. I was doing really well in marketing, in one specific area of marketing. So I go to Singapore, and I'm now the general manager of marketing manager for marketing, for running a services organization, to run an equipment outsourcing operation, to run marketing communications, to run R&D. I ended up opening up 2 laboratories in India and China, traveled all over the Asia Pacific region, met hundreds and thousands of people, managed, 400 or 500 people at a time. It was a phenomenal learning experience for me. I learned to think, not just in one area, but to connect the different dots. And then, they asked me to come back in 2010. I came back here as the vice president of marketing, R&D, and digital, which is sort of strange position. Typically, people don't get to do all of them. They get to do one or the other. And I wasn't prepared for it. I made lots of mistakes. Right. So that's the other thing, sometimes in careers, you make mistakes, lots of mistakes, and you're better off making those mistakes in the beginning of your career than in the end of the career. So by this time, I was high enough in the position that some of those mistakes were magnified quite a bit, right? Because I was pretty high in the position. Anyway, so I went on to do R&D. I was running about a $4.2 billion portfolio of R&D companies. And then eventually, in 2017, I retired from the company. And I was relaxing and trying to retire, but Buckman called and said, hey, we are interested in switching from a chemical company to a chemical digital company. And we want to get more into water, 2 things that I really had a passion for. And so I came here, and that's what I've been doing the last 3 years, trying to transform the company. So happy to answer any questions, and yeah, that's it.
Very interesting. Yeah. Now I will ask some questions to you. And there's a question here. Good morning. Could you tell me about how is the day life of a CDO or director? Michael, either or any.
Okay. For me, what the daily life of a director? Is that what the question was? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a hard one. Every day is a little different. But you always come in every morning with a plan. You have a schedule for the day to plan, and that's about 50 to 60% of your day. And then the other 40 to 50% are the things that come up. I would say, the ideal is to have a strategy, right, and a roadmap of how you're developing technology to get them to the market. And so that's how you plan. You have it all scheduled out. You have the resources aligned to deliver on that. And then you also have the real life, right? You have sales reps in the field. You have customers who have issues, and you have unexpected things that come up that you have to expect the unexpected, right? So the trick is, and this is something I'm still learning, right, is how to balance those urgent things versus the non-urgent things that are still important for you to hit that schedule that you've set, right? So I think it's a mixture of planning meetings, right? So we have a lot of meetings, and meetings are good because that's how you get things done. That's how you plan. That's how you get your resources aligned. And There's also then sometimes how you communicate, right, to the organization, to your team, or to your manager. So I would say there's a lot of meetings in my day. But then there's also times where you have to be reactive and you have to handle different issues that come up. So I think that's probably the best way I would describe my days. 60% of the plan, and then 40% of things that are unplanned that you're dealing with day to day. So, you want to give a different perspective than him on that? What's your day as a CDO?
There is no, there's really no standard day, really. I think Mike's answer is correct. I think you plan for something and then you adjust.
Adjust. That's a good word. So.
Very cool. And the second question is, what is the main characteristic or skill that you consider essential to reach your current position?
I can take this one if you want, Michael.
Yep.
So I think that there is not really one, characteristic. So if you indulge me, I'm going to say a couple things. The first and foremost thing is you have to deliver results, right? And the biggest difference between people that make it and people that don't, is the fact that the people who make it own outcomes and results, whereas the people who don't make it own activities. That's the number one thing. But if you want to get to my position, the other thing that you realize is that you don't do anything, right? I don't do a lot. I just make sure that everybody else does what they have to do. So, hiring the right people and training and motivating them to do the right things is probably, the other big thing that you're going to have to do, because without the right people helping you, you're not going to get there, right? Then there is no substitute at the end of the day. You can't just be the manager and hire people and all that if you don't know what you're doing. So you have to know what you're doing. So, that is why I say, when you're early in your career, you have to do different things, make mistakes, learn from them. If you haven't been a group manager and a director, you can't manage a group manager and a director because you don't know what they're going through. You really can't, guide them properly. You can't help them. And you're in a meeting, people are talking about this, they're looking to you to make a decision. And the worst thing that you can do is not make a decision and let everything sort of go, right? So to do all of those things, you need to know the stuff, whatever it is that you're managing. So being conversant with technology and, frankly, the impact of the technology with the business. That's the difference between somebody who works on the bench and somebody who is a director, is you're always able to translate the technology to the business. You're the translator. That becomes very important. So, and I've always believed, the reason why I'm successful is not because I'm the smartest guy in the room, but as Michael will tell you, I have a very healthy, ego. So, and ego is not a bad thing. Ego is a good thing. What I mean by that is I believe that nobody can outwork me, right? It's I take ownership for everything that everything I'm responsible for. I take it personally when things don't go right. That's all good signs of ego. So, I know it's a long answer to the question, and the truth is there's not one simple answer to it. At the end of the day, there is also what you call the it factor. The it factor is in France, they call it the je ne sais quoi, right? I don't know what they call it in Portuguese. So it is something, it is called charisma. You can call it a lot of things, but you need something like that to lead a group of people to to some good outcomes. So it's all those things. Michael, what do you think? Anything you want to add?
No, that was good. And you used the word own and ownership a couple times. So I think that's one that I focus on. Ownership is something that you just have to exhibit. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have and how many facts you know, or how well you know the field. If you don't own, like he was saying, own the outcome, nobody's going to do it for you. Right? So you, at some point, you have to within yourself say, okay, I see what has to be done. I'm going to make it happen. Not on your own, right? You have people around you, but if you don't have that sort of drive, that initiative yourself, it's not going to happen for you. So you need to have that. I call it ownership, and I don't think it's, and it just means, as NM was talking about, being responsible for making sure everything gets done, even if you're not doing it yourself, but making sure, hey, this guy over here has to do this for me, or I'm not going to be successful. Well, you better go talk to him. Better make it happen. So otherwise, you're just a victim, and you say, well, he didn't do this thing, so I couldn't be successful. That's not a good spot, right? So that's what I would add. Yeah.
And it's interesting listening to you talking about this, because 100% responsibility, accountability, they are core Buckman values. So it's really part of our Buckman DNA. Before we go to the questions here, João, I just wanted to add one question from YouTube to you and M. How you mentioned on your speech few mistakes you made throughout your career and how you learn from them. How did you deal with these mistakes? It's the question posted here by Andre on YouTube.
Well, early in my career, I made lots of mistakes. So, and usually they have to do with people, because people are the most complex ingredients we deal with. How to motivate them properly is a skill that even, I think I would say, eludes me even today, right? So different people are different ways, and different people have different motivations. What works for the goose does not work for the gander. So as a young and growing manager, learning how to sort of deal with different people and motivate them the right way, how to push their buttons, as it were, properly, how to reward, recognize people, all those things. I think I made tons of mistakes, but I learned, the part of the stuff is, it's just about watching and having the honesty to ask yourself, did that work? And having some people be surrounded by people that are not afraid to tell you that you're wrong helps also. So, and the second thing is, sometimes you can get arrogant. I was so successful. Very few people have the opportunity to have a product that makes, $1.2 billion a year. So you can get very arrogant, and you can think that you can make no mistakes, that you know everything. And the fact is you don't. And the fact is that you're only as good as your last mistake. And, and so you learn to not drink your own Kool-Aid. I don't know how this an expression translates in Portuguese or not, but don't read your own press clippings. Don't rest too much on your past. Always think about what you're going to do for today, and build that. So I think it's a little bit of a humble pie is not a bad thing. It is a fantastic thing to make you grow as a person.
Nice advice. So we have a new question here from Winderson. Here in Latin America, and I believe also in Asia Pacific, it's kind of hard to sell wastewater treatment solutions to companies and governments that don't have strong environment laws. How do you do to achieve these new potential clients in this context? Michael Leader or Henry Monroe?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. I mean, so government regulations is a good driver a lot of times for our business. And so the question is, what if you don't have that, right? How do you get customers to buy your technology, you don't have the government or the regulatory. Is that the question essentially? Okay. So I think, without getting too specific for that market, I think the bottom line is, look at yourselves. Why do you buy an iPhone or an Xbox, right? Or something, because those are expensive. You're paying money for something, and you obviously think you're getting something back that's worth it, right? So that's the value. We call it a value proposition, right? So, people don't like to pay for wastewater treatment, right? It's an expense. It's a necessary thing, but there must be something that they're getting back for it, right? So a lot of time, maybe it's not government forcing them to do it. Maybe it's, concern for the environment. Every one of us is drinking water out there, right? And so we don't want to be polluting the environment. And it could be savings, right? Maybe there's a way that they can spend. The expression I always use is spend $1, give me $1, and I'll give you $2 back, right? Maybe you pay $1 here, but you get $2 savings somewhere else. In the end, you saved $1. Who wouldn't take that deal, right? Of course, it's never usually that simple, but that's the concept. It's of value, right? You want them to feel like they're getting their money's worth, and if they don't, they're not going to buy it, okay? Unless the government tells them to, right? So that's how I'd answer that question.
The thing about that though is, at the end of the day, businesses operate there to make money. So, the government sector is not usually a good sector for the exact reasons you're talking about, right? So, in general, for example, Buckman does not get after the municipal treatment market because the governments they don't tend to appreciate value very much. It's a tender, and the lowest price wins, and so on. In many cases, in many of the parts of the world, I'm sure Brazil is not this way, but there are ethics issues, corruption issues, right? And we, from an American company perspective, we have very specific US laws that prohibit you from, and we would do it anyway, but there are laws that prohibit you from doing it. So it is sometimes better not to get after that market for that reason. And so, you do those kind of things if you have a differentiated technology that adds real value, and where the end user, the customer, appreciates the value and is willing to pay for it. And if they don't, you get out of the market as quickly as you possibly can.
All right. So we have a new question here. It's 3 questions in one to NM. So how hard was your transition when you decided to change your work area? What was the influence of that in your professional life? And do you think you would have reached such position if you didn't make that move?
It's a great question. And as I was telling you, I think that the secret that most young people learn a little too late is to put yourself in uncomfortable, difficult positions early on in life, right? And I sort of had that, innately, I had that thing inside of me. So about 6 years into my research and development career, I had an opportunity to move into management of people. And as anybody who knows me knows, I have very high standards. I'm very critical of people. And I wasn't sure that I was cut out to be that person, to be a leader, right? So there's a big difference, by the way. So I did it because I thought that would help me become a better person. And I don't know if it did or not, but certainly there's a lot of growing up that I had to do in order to go from a single individual contributor to managing groups of people. And then, when I went from R&D to marketing, that was huge. That was huge, not just because I didn't know anything about marketing. It was also because everybody else that worked for me didn't believe in what I was doing. And the whole organization was sort of throwing stones at us. So it was a difficult transition to make, to get everybody on board without using your position power, and that teaches you a lot of things, right? How to persuade people, and so that was interesting. And then when I went to Singapore, that was a completely different challenge. It's a different culture, and as you all know, in the end, it comes down to whether you know the culture and the people, and you have the relationships with people. How smart you are has some impact, but if you don't know people, and if you have not developed the trust, it is very difficult to get things done in Asia. Probably true in Brazil as well, I would imagine. But so my first 8 months, I remember thinking to myself, I was now doing 6 different things that I was not doing, in the US. I was telling you, I would go from one meeting that talked about marketing and price increases and all of those different things to a marketing communications meeting that talks about the messaging, to services organization, which is a completely different muscle that you have to exercise, and then to a meeting with R&D people to talk about innovation. So your brain sort of has to learn to adjust from one meeting to the next, to the next, to the next. And I wasn't prepared for it, right? And my family was back here in the States. I was alone over there. I'd work 14-hour days and be exhausted and not make progress at the end of the day. I remember thinking to myself, what did I do? What did I sign up for? I was happy in the US. I should have been there and coasted. But, about 7 or 8 months into it, you suddenly realize that things begin to click, and a few more people. And if you go to a meeting, things make more sense, and you seem to be more in control of the meeting. So about 1 year into it, I was really in command. I knew what I was doing. And the next 1.5 2 years in Asia, I really enjoyed it. But then it was time to move again because I was too comfortable. So I wanted to come back here to the US. So absolutely, the ability to do different things, the company gave me the opportunity to do different things, and being put in all those uncomfortable situations, learning all those different parts of the business and how they all connect to each other and how we make money. That was all valuable experience. And honestly, our CEO, Junaid, told me this when he hired me. The reason why he hired me was not because I was a software genius. I told you in the very beginning I was not, or because I could design circuitry at will, which I cannot even today, right? But it's because he told me that the reason why he hired me is because of the business breadth that I had, and the fact that I was able to connect the technology to all these different parts. So 100%, yes, you need varying experiences in the early part of your life, and you have to make yourself put yourself in uncomfortable situations.
Very clear. We have a new question on YouTube too. Paulo Almeida asked, what's the best thing a CDO or a director could teach a new employee?
Can you repeat the question? The last part I didn't understand.
And what's the best thing a CDO or a director could teach a new employee?
What I would say is, just what I said, is, and I think, and Carol would resonate with this one. I think it depends on your ambition, right? I think, it depends on what you want to do in life. Decide what you want to do in life. Do you want to be a boat that floats on the river and just sort of goes where the river goes? Or do you have an ambition to get somewhere? There are 2 different answers to this question, depending on your answer. If the answer is that, hey, I want to do something, I want to be somewhere, and I'm willing to put in the effort and the work and the attitude, frankly, to learn, then the answer is different. That means everything I just said, take on assignments, every time somebody says, hey, somebody want to take this up, raise your hand and say, volunteer. Don't have too much of an ego. Ask people for help, right? One of the things that it took me a while to learn is the knack of going to somebody, your colleagues. You don't have to go to your manager. Go into a colleague and ask the question, hey, Michael, can you please give me some feedback about the meeting today? How did I do? Can I do better? Making yourself vulnerable, right? Asking the question to say, how can I improve? If you ask it the right way, with the right attitude, your colleagues will really help you, right? So learn. And of course, like I said, put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And there is really no substitute for, to working hard. You work only as smart as God gave you the ability to work smart. So work hard, at least in the beginning of your career. I still use the stuff that I learned my first 6 years. I'm still making money off of those things, right? So that's what I would say. Learn the first 6 years.
Right. And what do you think, Michael?
Yeah. So I like to learn advice. I'm just trying to, remember when I was new, when I was a first time employee, and what people said to me. But I think when I started, so I got out of school. So school, you got that academic mode, right? And then you come to this company, and it's different, right? It's a different environment, different expectations, and I think you have to. So I think, at least for myself, maybe it's different for you, but when I got out of school, and I felt like I was at the end, right? You just finished something. So you come into this company, you think you're done now. Maybe you're done learning. No, you are just starting, right? You don't even know what you don't know. And so that is a good thing, right? Because you're really just now equipped to start learning the real things that you need to know to do, be productive and do your job. So you do need to learn. You do need to, as I was saying earlier, you gotta be self-motivated. You can't wait for people to tell you what to do, right? That's another way to say what Enem was saying about floating down the river. So if you're just gonna wait for somebody to tell you what to do, then you're gonna go where they dictate. and I think maybe as a new person coming into a company, you might think, oh, I gotta do what my boss tells me. There is some truth to that, right? There is a hierarchy, and there's authority and things like that. But I can tell you as a manager, and Enem would say the same thing, we're always looking for people who are self-motivated, who are coming to us to say, hey, what about this? Come up with your own ideas. That's why we hire new people, and new perspectives come in. So use those. And I think you need to be a little bit empowered, right? Self-empowered, instead of coming in timid and thinking that you're limited and that you're the new guy, so you're nobody. No, it's the opposite, right? You're the new guy. You've got new ideas. So bring those ideas up, and don't be afraid to. And of course, I remember some of the ideas I came up with at the very beginning. They were very simple, right? I lacked experience, so the ideas I started with, maybe they weren't the $1 billion ideas, but you got to start, and then you come up with an idea, you get feedback on it, you understand, okay, I can see why that wouldn't work, but that leads me now to this idea, right? It's a progression. You got to get started. So get in the process of, in the habit of having ideas and that kind of thing. And that's where the fulfillment of a career in innovation comes from, I think. So
the one other thing I would add to that, Michael, is young people typically do not think about their career when they join a company, right? So it's like retirement. So you're 23 years old, you're not thinking about, what would I do when I turn 60 and I have to retire, right? And you have to put money away and those kind of things. career is the same way. You have to plan career the day you join the company, which means you need to have proactive conversations with your manager to say, hey, where do I get in 3 years? What do I need to do to get to that position? And here's my ambition. What do you think? Am I in the right track? Do I need more assignments to help prepare me for this? Right. So I think having that, companies are supposed to do this, right? Your manager is supposed to do it, but it doesn't happen consistently everywhere. So sometimes, well, always you have to take ownership for your own career. And, and it's been true in my life is you always need a few mentors in your life that are able to speak for you so expand your circle to have mentors, outside of your immediate circle, the people that know about you, they are supporters of you. And when people are talking about you, when you're not there, they're there to say, no, NM is really a good guy. He's not as bad as you think he is, right? Having mentors, I think in every career move that I've made, the mentor has played a huge role in making that happen.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thanks for the advice. And the next question is, how much the activities you did in college impacted the position you are in today? To Michael and Emerald.
The activities in college. Well, as I said, I started college as a pre-med student. I thought I was going to be a brain surgeon. Then I thought I was going to be a pediatrician. And honestly, the only reason that I veered away from medical school is because my first summer after my freshman year, all of the internships that I wanted were taken by upperclassmen. Okay, so here, all the no jobs for the freshmen. So my chemistry professor, Chem 101 or whatever, he suggested that I talk to another professor in the department because he likes to take students for the summer. And so that's what I did. So I was doing research, like chemical research in the lab, and getting paid. I'm like, so paycheck was the main thing for me, but it opened up my eyes, I guess, to a field that I really, here's another little story. When I was in high school, chemistry, okay, I can distinctly remember watching my chemistry teacher and thinking to myself, I am never going to be a chemist, okay? I'm not going to do what this guy does. And so it was just kind of an interesting twist that's where I ended up. And it was because of that summer internship in the chemistry department. And so that kind of shifted my focus. And then I started to get involved with the others in the chemistry department and the ACS and things like that. So I think from that point of view, those activities that I kind of got into related to my major obviously influenced me, going forward. Some of the other activities, maybe not so much. I love to play racquetball in college, and I haven't played really since. So that didn't stick with me. Some things stick with you and some don't. But definitely the academic direction is probably what I had the most. And speaking of mentors, and I was talking about mentors, that professor that I worked for the summer quickly became one of my mentors. And couple of things that I wouldn't have happened without him. Maybe I wasn't planning to apply to Harvard. All right. So when it was time for graduate school, well, first of all, his influence was all about where are you going to graduate school, not are you going to graduate school or not. Like, where are you going to be going to graduate school? Because that's obviously what you're doing. And so I picked, based on the types of research, I wanted to go to MIT and Cornell and Johns Hopkins. Those were the places where the research was interesting to me. And he said, Harvard. I said, no, listen, I know what they're like over at Harvard, and that's not me. Right? those rich, snobby people, right? That's kind of the stereotype. And smart, rich, snobby, smart people. That's not me. And he said, no, that's not how it is. Apply. So I did, and it was last on my list, of course, of the four. And then after I went to visit them all, it flipped around. So MIT was at the bottom, and Harvard was at the top. And it was. It turns out, I didn't realize this at the time, but he had done a sabbatical with this professor at Harvard, and so he had a connection and was instrumental in getting me there. So anyway, so that's those relationships maybe that you form in college will possibly have an influence later, right? So you never know. Networking, and that was my first network was my advisor and my mentor there, but you never know how those connections are going to pay off later.
Very cool. What do you think, Emerald?
Well, I don't know. Does smoking pot and listening to Pink Floyd count as activities? In which case, I didn't do it because I know I'm on record here. So no, I think I can't add more than that. I think I wish I had done more extracurricular activities. Social clubs. I wish I was participating in a lot of those. To develop more of a community orientation, social skills, leadership skills. They help you a lot in developing that. So I didn't do enough for that, I think.
All right. So next question is, what are your perspectives on the main trends in Buckman's different business areas?
I can take that one. So, and I think you sort of alluded to that when we started, right? I think digital is going to be a key trend in the next 10 to 20 years. I mean, it is already very important in every company's, strategy. And our CEO actually was very, very, when he came on as CEO, one of the cornerstones of his strategy was digital. And I think 40 years later, I think he has absolutely proven right. Without digital, if a company, especially a chemical company or any other company for that matter, a company does not have a digital strategy, I don't think they'll be around in 10 years. So it's as simple as that. It's everywhere that you look: artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotic process automation. You really cannot compete with your peers if you are not doing something in digital and you have a focused and intentional effort on the part of your company to get there. You just can't outsource everything to somebody, right? So that's the first thing. And the second thing, which is again my passion, is water. People used to say, 20 years ago, the next big war is not going to be fought over oil. It's going to be fought over water. And that statement has never been truer. I mean, you look at what's happening in the rest of the world. I mean, if you're right on the banks of Amazon, maybe the issue is not water, but not everybody is so fortunate. I mean, you go to India, you go to South Africa, you go to China, low water tables. Of course, global warming is not helping the climate, microclimate changes, those kind of things. But water is, and as the population expands, water is going to be a key topic, not just because CEOs can talk about them in their, analysts' earnings reports or whatever. It is not a luxury. It is essential. Because what happens is, when industry competes with people, who's going to win every time? It's people, right? I mean, especially in a democracy, there is no way that you're going to provide water to industry when people don't have drinking water. So, what we are embarked on, and we are passionate, I think everybody here on this panel today, myself, Michael, Carol, we're all passionate about making sure that we make the best use of water, that we have today, which means in many cases in Buckman, Latin America, it is a big driver for that, because there's one of the big business initiatives is we're focused on trying to help our customers reuse and recycle water so that, they're sustainable, they can actually continue to produce what they produce, and B, that there's actually a cost savings in a lot of cases. In many cases, the problem that we have globally is that the cost of water does not reflect its true value, right? So imagine if you're stranded in the Sahara Desert and you had the option of purchasing a gallon of water or a gallon of crude oil. What would you go for? I mean, it's not even close. Not even close, right? But the problem is the way that the water is taxed, or the cost of water is very, very low, even though the impact of the environment is pretty high, the water tables get low, and so on and so forth. But if the water cost was high, right, the companies would be incented more to want to do more things with water reuse and recycle. And that's sort of the trend that's globally emerging, is people are beginning to realize the true cost of water. The true cost of water is not the, I'll use the US terms here for a minute, $5 per 1,000 gallons of water. It's no longer that. It is probably $100 per 1,000 gallons of water, because you're impacting the aquifers, water tables. You could be denied water completely, so you may not even have the permit to produce whatever it is you're producing. So it's a very, very big trend, and I'm very excited to be part of that and try to change that dynamic in the world.
Very interesting. Do you have anything to say too, Michael?
There you go. Sorry, I put myself on mute with the mowing going on in the background here. I think that was well said, and I think digital and water, obviously, that's the part we are very interested in, and obviously think that's the future. The other part for Buckman maybe is paper. Paper is where our company was built, and that's probably paper's in a transition. So parts of it are going up, parts of it are going down. With electronics, graphic paper and that is going down, but packaging and tissue seem to be really strong. So it's been, I think our CEO has done a good job of kind of trying to understand all those trends. It's good that you asked the question. Right? That's where you have to start as a business. What are the trends? Not where are we today, but where are we going? What's it going to look like in 5 years? And so I think we have a good strategy, I think, to adjust to the changes that are coming.
Very interesting. So it was the last question. I would like to thank N.M. Raul and Michael Wheeler for the great content. Thank you so much. Also, don't forget to answer our feedback form João will send, so we can bring you even more amazing content. And now the Carolina will present a video to finish.
All right. So just echoing João's words here, thank you everyone for coming. A special thanks to Mike and N.M. I think this was a very interesting and a very good interaction for everyone too. So let me just quickly share my screen here once again. I just want to make sure that you guys know where to find Buckman. Okay, so over here, it's our website. Ooh, let me just transition the display. You guys can access our website using this QR code, and you can find us in buckman.com. You can find more information about all this innovate technology that NM and Mike talk a little bit about it, and a few more information about Buckman as a company too. You can also follow us in Instagram at Buckman Connected, and please take a look at our page in LinkedIn too. This is where you can find open positions. We are opening new positions for Buckman Brazil, Buckman Latin America over there, and you can find all about it on our Buckman LinkedIn page too. And just to finalize this section today, I do have another video talking a little bit about how does it feel working at Buckman.
What if your eye protection allowed you to see the future? And a single gas burner could ignite progress around the world? What if meeting new customers meant discovering new customs? What if every time you went to work, you were reminded that chemistry isn't just a science, it's a life science? Improving lives, businesses, communities, and the environment all over the world. What if you worked at Buckman? You'd be part of a company that spans 96 countries, many languages, and diverse cultures. You'd specialize in chemicals as a chemist, a chemical engineer, a process engineer, or a technical sales rep. But you'd also create a chemistry with bonds that connect the molecular with the global, and all of us with each other. You'd help bring to life new ideas and technologies to improve the industries we all rely on. Water treatment, pulp and paper production, leather making, and hundreds of other industries from ethanol to steel to food manufacturing. If you worked at Buckman, you could balance the needs of mankind with the needs of a healthy planet. With EPA award-winning enzymatic technologies and innovative approaches to conserve water, save energy, and reduce waste. If you worked at Buckman, you could help communities become healthier and more vibrant through Buckman Cares, joining fellow Buckman associates to clean up neighborhoods, participate in blood drives, support schools, and more. If you worked at Buckman, you could have a career that offered unique opportunities for personal and professional growth, with training that's ranked some of the best in the country. If you worked at Buckman, you could make a difference in people's lives, starting with your own. Buckman, commitment makes the best chemistry.
All right, so that is all from our side. Once again, thank you very much for coming. And João, just back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and especially for Michael Wheeler and Raul. I will let the correct code to our forms, feedback forms, and thanks to everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.